It is good to return back, and even though you can't see my face, but just let's look at the note on the board while we continue to talk about the items uh, that could illustrate what we have been saying, what we are talking about. In each culture, there are items, and it is similar items to every culture, but it has meaning, interpretation, and also the usage. Some use different things for different things. Okay, let's take an instance. The first point that we have there, the table. Now, before the table, let me say this. It will be helpful to illustrate further how these instruments vary in applying in each culture. Now, for instance, the table. The table, we said, is a material form produced as a part of the operation of American culture. Well, let me not go straight to only American culture, but also to the African culture where we grew up without table, but we formed table on our own locally until the development has come. People began to create table, chairs for themselves. But in our time, in the time of African culture, most people sit on the floor, eat with their hands, and pick up things on their own until the arrival of the technology a little bit advanced, whereby tables have been introduced in a room. You stay in a room with a table. You stay in a room with a chair. You stay in a room with everything. It exists within American culture in a variety of size, shapes, color, and materials. It is usually, not always, fairly easy to distinguish from other items in the category furniture, such as chairs, cabinets, couches, and footstool. Now, some of us, when we started using footstool, it's strange because we're used to one side direction and we're used to holding our things on our hands until when the side stool or the footstool or whatever we have, like in our own daily time. When you have a seat, then you have a side stool beside you. Okay? People look at it as different advancement because of the cultural changes. And so it helps in our new dimension. There are, however, several different kinds of tables, such as the dining tables, end tables, coffee tables, and picnic tables. Now, dining tables are more often and utilized by most, I don't want to use the word rich people, but I just want to use people who are civilized and they think they have gone to a stage where they need to upgrade their system, their house, their potential, all that they do. And so they brought dining table where they sit and eat with on it. Okay? Dining tables are mainly for eating, but some people they use dining table for studies. It's not bad, but it's only meant for eating. This is why we have table in our rooms for study. Okay? That is how the extent in which we can find the differences within the system. Now, several closely related items such as desks and curtains, cabinets, may alternatively be referred to as tables. Tables functions. Okay? What are they functioning in a cultural setting? In a different form, different perspective of the table setting and function. Table function as article of furniture in places such as home, school, churches, and even parks. They serve as things to set other things on, such as lamp, books, dishes, etc. We can talk about table where we name it iron table. Now people find it different and set it in a closet. Mostly people build a house these days and put the laundry room. And after the laundry, you have everything you needed there to iron the things and stretching it for properly used. And that gives you how the American culture values table. Table is more important for them and also good when it comes to all these areas and illustration that we have really provided for this. Okay, it is very important for them. They serve as things or said. Okay, I've seen that. So a table means do I have that in the PPT? Okay, I think I should have this in PPT. So let's go. A table means such things. Okay, such things as property, a place to sit at for eating, walking, etc. An object to dust, an object to keep, an attractive table's cloth on, a lamp holder, and the like. So many, the like. Okay? So these are similar and they are there to help. Ordinarily, people use tables according to their culturally assigned function. Dining tables are set at for eating. End table are used to hold in lamps. Coffee table are used to hold books, magazine, newspapers, and sometimes coffee, etc. because they are meant for relaxing, chilling, and taking some rest. When you sit and put your foot up and take your coffee and life continues. So really, with the coming of culture and Christianity have struggled to see to eat that which it should be and to be a reality in the daily life of individual. All right. So during, not during. Ordinarily, a distinction is made between a table as something one sits at and a chair as something someone sits on. On occasion, however, an individual will use a table to sit on. This usage is sometimes within the culturally allowable range, though often outside of it. Depending on the circumstances, it is seldom an approach usage. Now, not all culture believes in people sitting down on a table. Now, people feel somehow table that is made for eating, no one should sit on it because it's like polluting and destroying and even disfiguring the beauty and the sanity of the table. Meanwhile, reading table or office table, quite fortunate that some office, when you get there, you cannot even lean on the table because it is bound for that. That depends on individual perspective of understanding and creativity, whereby culture is being used, not we are used by culture. The other way around is that we should treat culture and be able to maintain our culture in a very similar way that we can function properly. This is linguistic form that occur in English language. It consists of three phones. Okay, three phones. We're talking about tables up to now, right? Three phones, and then we talk about dialect to dialect. Prominent among these pronunciation in standard American dialect and also in standard British and certain known standard American dialect. The word also exists in written form and in braille symbols such as plus and can be spelled out in code. Most Samifair can be presented by gesture, e.g., singing for the deaf, and it functions within the language to indicate connections or additional, especially of items within the same class or type. These are real, and we need to work on them to bring some different things into sanity of our culture. Since an is a function word rather than a content word, its means are largely determined by how it functions and how it is used within the language rather than by any reference outside of the language. In contrast, a content word such as a dog or a table, each functions as a noun within the language and refers also to an object that exists outside the language. Those objects exist whether or not anyone talks or writes about them. The word "an", however, derives its meaning almost entirely from its functioning and usage when people talk and also write. It happens. But again, it is then used within the language largely for the purpose of joining sentences of the same grammatical rank or function. A person within the range assigned by a language, some will use or will question whether it is proper or not proper to use it for the purpose and speak and the purpose. The speaker finishes one sentence and start the next with a drawn and with a drawn end. So where are we? This is all we're talking about, the issue of table and which the meaning has been sent. Now, this word "n" cannot be the same in many community or also culture, like I read. It has its own word, prominent use among each dialect or culture. Some use "n" as a way of describing things at the end of it, which finding solution. But we are looking at it in the English perspective as the linguistic form that occur in an English language. And we said it consists of three phenomena, and they exist in a variety of pronunciation different from dialect to dialect. Prominent among these punctuations and in the standard, and I've described different kind of English that we can look into, as it gives us all that it takes to be able to function. Number 2, from what we just discussed, remember, or let me just take you a little bit backward. Having seen the word table, we described the table and the conjunction that connects it into the reality of the explanation, and then we have discussed about it. So let's go to point 2 of our discussion now, which we are working on. Number 2 of it is all about rituals of baptism. Aha. Now, if I ask you what is baptism in this class, you can say that we're not dealing with baptism in the class. But since baptism occurs, I want you to put it back in your mind as assignment of this second hour. Okay? Define baptism and tell me the differences approach of baptism when it comes to whatever we see. Now, or in a cultural world, every baptism, it has its own meaning. So tell me the meaning of baptism in your culture, from your country, and what are the reasons behind the meaning in which you form. Or how is the baptism being seen in your country, in your culture, as we continue in our lecture. Now, the ritual of baptism, water baptism, this is a ceremonial, non-material form or custom that involves, for most Christians group, the use of water baptism. In forming these rituals, an official of a given Christian group either immerse or initiate in water, or sprinkle or pour water on the initiate head. This takes us to the more of Christian culture than ethnic culture, because in every culture there are baptism it came through the issue of the church establishment in our places and denomination in our country. That's why the issue of baptism has come, but it is a culture of itself that we're talking about. Now, when it comes to this culture, some churches, like they said, they sprinkle, some they immerse, some they initiate, and some they also what? Just put you inside completely into water and take control of yourself as inside the water for the issue of baptism. But the question is, why is it important, baptism, in our discussion? Why culture has to do with baptism? Because the church aspect of our culture is what we are talking about. Remember, we are dealing with Christianity in culture. And any Christianity that is not ruling culture, then it's not a Christianity, it's not a religion. A religion shouldn't be ruled by culture, but religion should be able to rule the Christianity, the culture, based on the things it should be. Okay? We have to understand that and be able to understand its functions and stability. Baptism may have a variety of meaning to both the groups and the initiators. Not all these are intended or even approved by either individual Christians bodies or by corporate Christianity or corporate organization or corporate functioning, or in the sense where one or two people come to be as a group, enterprises, managements, people who want to succeed within themselves as both sides. Right? That gives us a little skeptic about the definition of the baptism in in real sense. A complete description of the form of this custom will involve the detailing of such factors as the place, time, personnel, method, clothing, words, and all other aspects of the ritual. Now that reminds me of specific culture when it comes to baptism. Most people in a baptism mode, they usually wear white gown. But other churches, they don't have the problem of gown. You just come with your normal clothes and be sung into water, then come out and go out and change. But in Asia, and since I have been in Korea, and most of the churches I see and are baptized, I wear white and the members also wear white. They come and we baptize them in the water with the white gown, in which after which they take off and wear their clothes. It symbolizes purity and purification. It symbolizes sanity and cleansing. Because when one is clean, the Bible says God is holy and is righteous. For whoever wishes to be part of him must be clean, must be righteous, must be washed away. So these are issues and way of life in which we can find the symbol being attached to the meaning of the baptism. Okay? Baptism function for the most Christian group as a rite of initiation and incorporation of few members into the group. For the group, its primary function is as the doorway through which a new recruit pass. For the individual, in functions to confirm one's passage from outside the group to inside it. You have to go through certain protocol in order to be initiated inside this group. Whatever you do symbolizes and make a meaning to whatever you're gonna be, right? So baptism, or rather baptism may have a very meaning. I have something about biblical aspect of the baptism which I should have presented thus, but let's read it and see. The biblical intention would seems to be that the rite by accompanied by enthusiasm, love, joy, and Christian concern on the part of groups both initiates and join. Now, those who prepare the culture of baptism, and those who initiated the system, and those who also join, have the same common and mindful of the meaning of what they are doing when it comes to the issue of the culture of the Christianity culture. Yeah. So interacting, okay, the group both initiate and join. Interacting with all this, the contributing markedly to the meaning of water baptism is the way the form is used by the group and individual employing it. Now, it has to be somehow, but in a different way, we can see what many people are doing and also helping that baptism to look like. But here it tells me, it gives me different idea to what we have also on the board. Many group uses, okay? Many group use and impose the form as if it were handed down by God, and therefore it's sacred and even medical in itself, whether or not they perceive meaning corresponding with scriptural meaning. Okay, it's way far from there. It's way far from there, and gives us certain idea or things we need to understand when it comes to the baptism and its interaction. Okay, it really maintains certain things for us to go by it. So let me throw this question to you. As I said at the beginning, what format of baptism is your church taking? Okay, you can write that also as the second question of our the form of baptism within your church or denomination, and what are their importance, their meaning, and their function to the society and to the people around in which you live with. Having said all this, and having come to the end of second hour, I wish that you could see my face, but you will see my face in the third hour. Let me address this, that we need to work on the certain things that we know is right.